providing you with some of the great content. So first up will be Toby Harris, who's our business applications technical specialist. Mike Giles, pleased to be joining us as finance director for Fieldfisher. Vinnie Scarinci, who is the vice president for legal practice at sa.global. And finally, we've got a Q&A session hosted by sa.global director Nick Meredith. Before we start, I hate to say it, but a few housekeeping rules, if I may. As we go through the session. Sometimes these sessions move at quite a pace. So there is a new feature within Teams where you can add live captions. So for anyone who wants to use this feature, if you select the ellipsis, which is in the top right bar, I'm doing training now, select turn captions on, the captions should now appear for you in the bottom of the screen. The key feature for this is it will serve up a transcript of the whole conversation for you to read through at your leisure at the end of the session. I'm not trying to sell anybody Microsoft Teams, honest. If you do need support for accessing this feature, just drop a note into the chat and we'll pick it up and try and communicate you to get that working. We would like to record the session for those who've not been able to attend. And if there is any objections, please do shout out now. If not, further ado, we will crack on. So now I'd like to introduce Toby Harris, who is a Microsoft Business Applications technical specialist who will run you through the true benefits of connected finance by enabling the data to be connected across your entire organization. How to add that intelligence into decision making with machine learning, our AI capabilities, and the benefits of creating that personalized experience, enabling law firms and fee earners to become much more productive with data-driven insights. Toby, let me hand over to you.
Great, thank you, Jamie, and thank you everyone for joining us this morning. So yeah, I want to spend the next 10 minutes talking to you about how you can gain more insights more insights, actions, and accountability from your finance system with the rest of your system. I'm sorry, I'm just going to move the slide on. Just can we move the slide on one slide, please? I'm just trying to get control, but it's not working. That's fine. I'll let you know when to switch the slides if that's all right. But yeah, as I was saying, the next 10 minutes, I just want to talk to you about how you can get more insights, actions, and accountability from your connecting your finance system with the rest of your landscape, including, your Microsoft investments, creating that closer alignment between systems, stable cross-application business processes with governance and compliance and standardization built in. And next slide, please. I think I've got the slides now. Great, thank you. So if we think about the last 12 months, there's been a tremendous amount of change and uncertainty in the market that firms have had to tackle both internally and externally with your clients and other organizations. This has been clear to see that firms that are agile to respond to this change have been the ones that have the resilience to recover and reimagine their processes, systems, and approach in a new way of thinking. Big market events such as COVID-19, Brexit, and other legislative changes are always catalysts for change. And if you think back to that classic story of Blockbuster and Netflix to paint a picture of how if you don't respond to change, you could run the risk of being left behind. Blockbuster laughed Netflix out of the room when Netflix offered to be bought for $50 million. Today, Netflix market cap is closer to $220 billion. We all know what happened to Blockbuster. Go to the next slide. So most of the time in these situations of change and uncertainty, data can provide a lifeline to understand the root causes. One too many. To understand the root causes of the problems in the firm. But in most cases, this data is not structured in an intelligent way. It's unsuitable and it is in an unmeaningful way. These data silos between core systems and reporting tools leads to inaccurate reporting using disjointed methods to patch the data together and provide any insights. A lot of the time, this involves stale, static data being manipulated in Excel, and by the time the findings are presented to the decision maker, the data is outdated and those findings are not accurate. And this ends up leading the business decision makers to actually try and retroactively back up a decision they may have already made due to the availability of the information at the time. So what we obviously want to think about is by breaking down these silos, we create connections between systems. Business decision makers can harness data to make proactive decisions based on real insights. So think about the finance team. Obviously, that's our topic of conversation today. Most finance tools will offer some form of reporting, but 99% of the time that reporting is only looking at the data that is inside the system at that time. This does not include things like matter management information, employee information, client data, the list goes on. So this obviously, by breaking down these silos and connecting your data, you're able to draw meaningful insights and leverage data across that entire landscape. Connections can now be previously made where none existed, leading to new insights that will allow you to navigate through that uncertainty and change. So obviously Microsoft are uniquely positioned to help and guide organizations and firms through this digital transformation, as we provide one single application across all business applications. So one single business application platform from customers, employees, data, operations, and finance, all on top of the same platform. Add to the rest of this, the rest of the Microsoft portfolio, including Office, Teams, Azure, our low-no-code Power Platform. You can really start to see how we create not just deep functionality, but rich connectivity to bring people, customer, and finance together. So disconnected data leads to those lack of inefficiencies and allows you to essentially make it harder to make those critical business decisions. Break down those data silos and connect your data up with the rest of the business. You're able to understand what's happening in a much greater detail. So let's move on. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to try and paint you that picture of how the Microsoft platform works, including our finance system with everything else that you may have invested in. And then we'll see how that does make Microsoft truly unique. So if you think about our business applications, as I'm sure you're aware, our business applications span not just finance, but service, sales, project management, customer service, all field service, all of that kind of information. But crucially, it's all built on the same platform, so data can be utilized across that entire application suite. You add that together, our low no-code Power Platform, ways to create applications or single apps for firms, cross-application business processes, bot framework. So, for example, employees or fee earners can ask questions to the bot and it will understand that and go to the data and give them answers. This is going to provide governance and standardization to your processes, not just in one system, but across all systems. You add on top of this, obviously, our collaboration tools with our office platform, things like Teams, where you can have the bots work inside Teams. So, fee earners can ask questions on how many billable hours did I have last week, and the system will understand that and tell them in Teams. Having approvals going through Outlook or going through Teams instead of having people having to go into the system to run that themselves. You can see how we can tightly integrate all of this data together. You then add further information to this, things like people information, HR data. If you think about, the knowledge base or learning that with a new tool that we've just announced through Microsoft Viva, which is another kind of extension inside Teams, adding into this performance information from HR. Again, you're ensuring that you have the right people at the right matter at the right time, because all of that information is in one place. You then add on top of that, obviously, the crucial conversation today, our partners. Now, sa.global are a great example of this. They take our industry agnostic platform, our finance system, and provide that legal lens. They have their IP that they're going to talk through today that will allow you to actually provide the specific functionality that firms need to operate, but in an industry standard way. But also, you're not siloing your data. You're not creating your own tool inside, finance, a legal finance tool separate. It's still natively integrating with the rest of your platform, so you can continue to get those insights and analytics pushed out the system. And then you build on top of this Azure. Now, obviously, as I'm sure you're aware, all of our technology is built on top of Azure. And what this means to you and your law firms is that you can make use of some of that far-reaching, bleeding-edge technology that sometimes is a bit out of reach. Things like machine learning and artificial intelligence, because again, all the data is in one place. We can harvest that data and use it for machine learning algorithms. Things like security, obviously Azure Active Directory is natively built into all of our systems, with also our best of breed security technology. So you know that both your information, your client's information, and your matter information is all safe and secure inside the cloud, rather than being worried about where that data is being stored. So this entire platform creates a simple, intelligent platform. All data can be used across a system, and new insights and new actions can be driven off the back of it, because you're creating connections between data that previously was horrendously siloed, horrendously disjointed, and you had to kind of hodgepodge that together. Oh, sorry, I've missed, the slide's gone blank. I can't actually, there we go, we're back. Cool. And by having this all in one place, it enables things like the digital feedback loop, which allows data to be used across systems. So if we think about finance, for example, you can be bringing in third-party information into cash flow forecasting based off client or matter information to accurately predict where your cash flow is going to be going. Or if we think about, we've got a new feature called customer payment insights, which will leverage data on past payment predictions and use machine learning to actually understand when your clients are going to pay and if they're going to pay on time. Or if we think about, matter management, you can ensure that you've got the right solicitors, the right legal team on the matter at the right time, because you have all of that employee information natively integrated with your matter information based on our finance system. Now, if you think about this from a data perspective, it's all in one place. From an intelligence perspective, you're leveraging that data and our best of breed technology to get those insights, which allows you to drive actionable actions off the back of that, which at the end of the day is the most important thing. But if we think about this from a bottom-up perspective, as I've mentioned, everything is built on top of Azure, our industry standard infrastructure system. Built on top of that, our common data model, which is the schema or the data structure of our business applications, which actually allows you to natively integrate with over 400 different systems with our pre-built connectors. And if you have a system that we don't integrate with natively out the box, that's absolutely fine, because you can create custom integrations. What about if you've got on-premise systems? Well, with our RPA or robotic processing automation technology, you can actually record on the screen the task or the actions that need to be taken on that on-premise system, and the system after that will natively automate that process for you and connecting previously siloed systems. So if you take that infrastructure layer and you, if my slide loads, okay, can try and move the slide on, please? There we go. If you take that infrastructure layer on top of that our cloud applications, you then start to see how you can leverage both the Power Platform, Dynamics, and Microsoft investments all in the same space. But if you think about our competition and what we normally see in the market from legacy vendors or traditional vendors, there's that disjoint between the systems. For example, if you take the classic argument of CRM versus ERP, there's a solid break between those systems. And then when you have maybe a collaboration tool on one cloud, and then you've got another finance tool sat on a different cloud, you then got to bring all of that together in one space. But if you look on the left-hand side, you can see how easy it is to natively integrate that together and promote the data from the bottom up to drive those insights. So that is everything that I wanted to cover today. I hope if there's any questions, obviously, please do reach out. But thank you very much for listening.
That's great. Thanks, Toby. That's a great overview and outlining the value of how connected finance can bring informed decision making across legal and law firms with the use of those real-time insights. And I think what's important to also highlight there is bringing the power of frontline business applications along with your productivity suite, which great story there. And then now we move on. My favorite part of the session, a real life customer example. So in a moment, I'm going to hand over to Finance Director Mike Giles, who's been in the driving force within Fieldfisher, leveraging sa.global's evergreen legal layer, as Toby mentioned, over Dynamics 365 to drive that competitive advantage, giving them insights into their business that they never thought were possible. Before I steal any more of your thunder, Mike, please let me hand over the reins to you.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Jamie. Really just following on from some of the comments that Toby's made. You know, when we embarked on our Evergreen project, we were starting with an old legacy system, and really we had the opportunity to bring about change that doesn't happen very often. These systems tend to be, you know, pretty long in use, and so to bring about a change was actually quite a big challenge for us. I think from my point of view, one of the biggest opportunities was to really challenge how we do things around here. Some of the processes that we had were pretty vaguely defined. They were largely historic, and they were in some instances based on old manual processes. And so we had the opportunity to really start from a clean sheet of paper and think about how we wanted stuff to work, and think beyond what had been possible in the old systems. Actually start looking at what is best in breed, not just across law firms, but across industry generally, to try and implement the best way of doing stuff. And that obviously brought about change. We spent an awful lot of time talking to the business about how wonderful this new system was going to be and all its capabilities, but it was going to be different. What everybody heard was it was a wonderful new system and it was going to be a fantastic way of doing new things. What they didn't hear was it was going to be different. And so as a result, we found some resistance to change, and we had to paint the picture. We had to paint the vision of what was possible and take the users on the journey to get buy-in to that process. One of the real benefits, I think, of the dynamic stack is the really powerful workflow tools that now exist, which enable us to eliminate huge amounts of paper and you know, the kind of the scribbles on a page, the wet signatures, if you like, of approvals. Clearly, it was a change that was slow during normal business life, but the lockdown during COVID-19 has produced has accelerated, if you like, that change, because what we have seen is some processes just simply don't work. My favorite one that I refer to from time to time is check signing. You know, people can sign checks. We're in the office, and we found a huge resistance to elimination of checks in favor of electronic banking processes. But in the lockdown, of course, we couldn't move checks around to people's homes, and so we have taken that step forward and probably accelerated by at least 12 months that process. And there are similar examples of that where we have used workflows rather than the pushing of paper around the buildings. And as I was saying to somebody recently, we have almost completely eliminated the orange transit envelopes that used to move paper from one department for another around the firm. And so what we're seeing is a much greater efficiency. And because of the workflow processes, we have been much more clear in terms of defining the objectives we were trying to achieve from those particular business processes. As Toby's already said, it's a Microsoft product. It works very seamlessly with the Microsoft Office suite, for example, and that provides huge opportunities for integration as well. We are just at Fieldfisher, just in the throes of trying to implement Teams, and that's something I find particularly exciting because the opportunities for the use of Teams with the Microsoft stack, particularly the Dynamics opportunities, are huge, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how we might integrate with Teams over the coming months. Looking at the centralized data hub that Toby referred to, when we went live with Evergreen, we turned off, I think, something like 11 legacy software products. I think the emphasis at that stage prior to Dynamics was really more about looking at software for a particular business solution. So we had an HR module, HR system, we had our credit control system, we had our expense approval system, and so on and so forth. But now we're much more joined up, and we are far more focused now on the data rather than on the software that delivers the particular solution. And so we are moving much more closely to the position that Toby described as where we have that centralized data hub, we have that one version of the truth, if you like, which enables us to put together data links that previously were either difficult or impossible to create, which gives us much greater in-depth analysis of what's really going on in the business. We're seeing a far greater emphasis on actionable data. You know, previously we just used to spit out data once a month because it was the month-end process. Now we're seeing huge increase in the use of dashboards. Dashboard information is updated at least daily. The fee earner population are now really able to see what's going on in their practice areas, what's going on in their business, and able to make decisions much earlier. Because we're able to find these data links, it's much easier to understand what's going on in the business more generally. And interestingly, we're going through a process at the moment looking at our normal month-end closing process, and it's becoming increasingly clear that the traditional month-end reporting is becoming less valuable in some respects, because actually the data is now available on a daily basis, and we don't need to wait till the end of the month to see, you know, how we're doing. We get that information on a daily basis on dashboards which have drill-through capabilities, which are accessible by everybody depending on their particular position, from fee earners through to the top management within the organisation. So the data is there. It allows us to make proper database decisions, rather than as Toby said, to kind of retrofit the data to make to justify the decisions already made. I think that from my point of view, one of the real benefits that we're seeing is the ability not just to report what has happened within the business, which is the kind of traditional, you know, finance function. You know, we produce our monthly P&Ls or monthly balance sheets, whatever, and we send them out and say, this is what we've done current month, year to date, what have you. That's fine as far as it goes. It's almost like driving, looking constantly in the rearview mirror. What I'm more interested in now is not only what has happened, but why it happened. And more to the point, what that means for the future and how we adjust our business going forward to take advantage of the opportunities that arise. We certainly saw that during the last 12 months, where nobody could have predicted what was actually going to happen during the lockdown period. But because of the availability of data, we were able to track much more carefully, much more closely what was really going on, and adjust our businesses and our business performance to match the reality of what was going on in our markets during the course of the COVID crisis as it developed. So we think that we were much closer to what was really going on than we would have been previously using, if you like, the traditional reporting approach. I guess the other final point to talk about is this ability to push forward faster. I've already spoken a bit about some of the dashboards and the way that it is making us think about our business. But actually the whole dynamics approach within the cloud, with this regular program update, where the software update, is proving incredibly helpful. It was a bit of a challenge to start with because we weren't used to the idea of having, you know, up to 8 upgrades every year. You know, previously we worked on the systems where, you know, you kind of upgraded once a year. It was a bit of a process. It involved a lot of people on UAT and one thing and another, but we kind of got through it, and we upgraded the software, then decided, you know, was there anything in this new version of the software that we might be able to use? And then we go through a process of trying to understand it and implement it. And there was a kind of general view that, oh, the software now does this. Is that of interest to us? But really, in the dynamics world, our upgrades, because they're happening very regularly now, our mindset has changed. We're now working much more closely with sa.global and to some extent with Microsoft on developing the functionality that we want, so that there is much greater proactivity on our part, so that we are really driving forward, looking at the next step, looking at the next thing that we want to achieve. And we've got a huge journey ahead of us. There's lots more that we can do. As you've seen from Toby's presentation, the scope of what is available is absolutely enormous. And I think that as we get to understand the overall system capabilities, the more we realise how much more we can do with it. And as I said to others in the past, one of the key limiting factors, at least one of my key limiting factors, I think, is simply the power of my own imagination to imagine what is possible. You know, this is an immensely powerful piece of kit. It's taken us to a new world where we're doing things that I just didn't think we'd be able to do, and you know, it's a really exciting journey to be on, and it has changed forever, I think, the way that we approach finance and data and the business analytics at Fieldfisher. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. We appreciate your time. A big thank you. Look, for his fabulous insights on how Fieldfisher has been able to push forward, you know, faster and with more agility. I think more than they imagined. And as Mike mentioned, you know, they're halfway through the journey. They might not even be halfway through, but their journey, there's still a long way and lots of benefits to come. Look, fundamentally, you know, Microsoft and sa.global, for us, it's all about making it relevant to law firms. And now I want to introduce you to Vinnie Scarinci, who really is our VP of our legal practice at sa.global. You know, Vinnie is responsible for partnering with law firms, you know, advising on their strategies and technologies, you know, to help them optimize their growth, and whilst leveraging, you know, sa.global's both Empower and Evergreen solutions that obviously sit on and in the Dynamics platform. Vinnie, I'm going to hand across over to you, and we'll leave them in your capable hands.
Thanks so much, Nick. Appreciate that. Let me just go in here and get that slide over. Here we go. Yeah, so if you get, here we go. I just have a couple slides here just to kind of set the story. And for those of you who are not aware of our technology, so we have taken the Dynamics F&O solution and the Microsoft Power Platform and put a unique layer on top of the software. So in the graphic here, you can see at the center, we've taken the F&O solution and put a unique IP layer on top of that is very focused at law firms. So if you go in and you look at some of the modules inside of here, you can see that we have some unique workloads like ethical walls, new business intake, records that have all been designed specifically for law firms. On the outer ring, we leverage the Microsoft Power Platform to really focus the journey in on the user communities inside of the law firms. So let me advance the slide here and talk you through some of those examples. So Toby talked a lot about empowering the employees at the organization, and inside of a law firm, obviously one of the key audiences that we want to focus in on is the attorney experience. So what I'm showcasing here are some of the tools that we're using with the Microsoft Power Platform to extend that journey and really focusing in on simplifying the journey for the attorneys. During the next couple sessions, our sales engineer Lucy will showcase off the time entry app as well as the virtual assistant in the next session. And later in the session, during my demonstration, I'll showcase off the business intelligence, analytics, and some of the workflow automation that's available through the tool. Because there is so much that attorneys accomplish during the course of their day, really simplifying that journey was kind of a key focal point of our solution. And what you'll see through the presentation today is that we've really streamlined the journey and focused the attorney in on specific workloads that are relevant to their job. And because we are leveraging the Microsoft stack, we're available through a traditional web browser. Lucy will actually showcase off next week our Teams interface that you can see here in the slide. And of course, if you're on the go in your mobile applications, you can access it through your mobile devices. So with that said, let me go over here and get into the demonstration. Okay, so you should be able to see my screens here now. So I'm actually logged in as Lucy, so I'm going to leverage Lucy's environment here this morning. And what you can see is a very streamlined version of Microsoft Dynamics here, very focused in on the attorney or lawyer persona. Across the top here, we have a ribbon of unique workloads that are available to this particular fee earner. So if I'm a fee earner, one of the things that I care about the most, obviously, is my clients. So I'm going to go in and take a quick look at my client list here. And what I see is a running list of the 39 clients that I'm managing today. And because I'm on the go, I may be wanting to focus in on a certain subset of these clients. What I could do here is go in and I can start to sort on my clients. I can leverage kind of the native Dynamics capabilities here. I can go in and filter my based on certain criteria that I want to go in. So here I'm going to go in and I'm going to sort it by some of the health clients that I'm servicing. I may also have a business requirement to gain a little bit more insight here. So what I might want to do is I might want to add some additional data columns. So I could go in here and I can add some form information. And for this particular demonstration, I might want to go in and take a look at their credit limits. So I can go in here and add credit limits to the screen. And now all of a sudden I have some additional data in here. So again, jumping the attorneys and fee earners into certain workloads and supplementing that information based on the unique workloads that they require. So I'm going to bounce back out to the main dashboard here. And I'm going to talk a little bit now about expense reports. So, Toby referred to the fact that, in other software vendors, they require you to go out, purchase these other systems. In the Dynamics world, everything is embedded here into the one single application. So I have the expense workloads built right in here. If I'm a manager, I could go in and do some approvals. So you see here, I have 4 expense reports that need to be approved. I could grab this first one and I could give it a quick look. And my employee here, Darren, has submitted a car expense and there is no receipt attached to the expense. So kind of a naughty task here. I'm going to have to reject this, unfortunately. So I can go up to the workloads here that are built in the workflow. And I can go in and reject this. And I probably want to put in a little comment so Darren understands why I'm rejecting it. Then I could go down and reject the expense report. And you see now I only have 3 in the queue here. Likewise, I may want to go in and add my own expense report. So I can go in to expense reports. And I've already started one here for the demonstration. So I can open up the draft that I've started. And you can see that I've already put in my taxi expense. I want to go in and add my meal. So I can simply go in, add the meal, type in the additional information, and submit that down into the system to my manager for their approval. So again, a lot of times, especially in the legal world, what we're seeing is that expense systems are purchased from third-party applications. You have to build those integrations down into the finance systems. In addition, it requires a bunch of additional training for the fee earner to get up to speed on those additional systems. So next, I'm going to talk about the dashboards that you see here. Mike talked a lot about the dashboards. This is obviously a big focal point for the fee earners inside of these organizations. They're very focused in on billable time and the hours that they're booking. So we give them some visualizations. If you're not familiar with Power BI, we see these little plus marks here. And if we click on them, you can see the second layer of information that sits underneath some of those, the data visualizations there. If I go back up to the top, down at the bottom here, I could, if I want to try and get an understanding of my WIP, I may have a question about why we have so much money that is outstanding here at 90 days plus. So if I wanted to get an understanding of that, we do have the power to go in and do a drill through. So I can go in, simply click drill through, and I start to drill into the information so I can get the underlying information and get an understanding of why the WIP was at 239,000 and start to execute a plan against reducing this number. Down at the bottom, you'll see that we have several different tabs. So based on who you are and your responsibilities in the law firm, you may have access to one or more different tabs depending on the focal point of your particular role inside the firm. So if I wanted to go over and maybe tab over to the matter fee earner view, you can see that the graphics inside of the dashboard here change based on specific role. And likewise, if I'm the client partner, I may get different visualizations here as well. So let me now bounce over to this left-hand navigation, and you can see that we have some additional activities here. So inside the platform, we've built up a list of recently used matters. So we know that the fee earner goes from matter to matter. These lists are dynamic, so they are surfacing up the latest and greatest matters that they're working on, and gives them the ability to jump into specific workloads right from this recently used matter screen. So you'll see that we have the list of recently used matters, but we also have some actions available to us right here at the top of the screen. So if I've just met with this one particular client here, and I want to add some time to them, I can simply click that and jump into the ability to log some time. I'm not going to do that for our demonstration based on time purposes, but I may also want to get some additional information on this particular client. So maybe I have them on the phone and something's popped up and I need to answer some particular questions. So let me dive into an inquiry. And while I'm on the phone with this client, I have a lot of great information here as far as the financial health and additional data that supports this client. So I can see that for some reason we have a large number of outstanding time that has not been billed. If I want to go in and drill into that, I can dive into that particular set of information and I can quickly get an understanding of what's happening with our unbilled time. Down at the bottom, we also have our client monies. Over here in the US, we actually call this trust money, but it's an important part for the fee earner to have a good understanding of. So I may want to go in here and click on that and get a little understanding of kind of what's happening in the client money section of this person's account. Next, I'm going to go into search. I think search is pretty self-explanatory. I won't spend too much time on it, but we do give the ability here for the fee earner to quickly search by client or matter and dive into that particular information very quickly. They can see all of the accounts that they have available to us based on the search criteria that we've put into the box. This is actually a really fantastic tool set that we've built out, and a special shout out to Mike Giles and his team who helped us with some of the development efforts on this and some of the workloads that we focused in on. But this is where we're leveraging the Microsoft Power Apps for our time entry part of the application. I'm not going to demo this today. This is a little bit of a tease for you to come join us next week, but you can see that this is our time entry app. And next week, you'll actually get to meet Lucy and she'll show you the time application, but we're going to do it next week through the Teams interface. So let me go down here to time recording. This tends to be a very popular part of the application as well. So this is a very holistic view of what's happening with the fee earner's time entry. So I can get kind of a quick calendar view of where my hours are, where my non-billable time is, and of course, the infamous unposted time. So we could go in here on the unposted time. I can click in and quickly get an understanding of what I haven't posted into the system from a time perspective. So here I can see the 5 hours that I've failed to post yet. So I could go back and maybe put the additional detail in or submit the information back to the system to get that pushed in before the end of the month. Likewise, a lot of times when you're on these screens, you realize like, wait a minute, like I forgot to actually bill some time here. So I go back to the 7th and I realized there was a meeting that I forgot to record my time on. Right from the screen, I can quickly put a time entry here and I can click into it. And of course, I can start to add time right from the screen as well. So multiple entry points to get into time entry, which gives the fee earner a lot of access. And of course, we want them to get that time in on time, of course. So useful actions gives us some additional entry points into the application. So again, this is where from a sa.global standpoint, we have some of those unique workloads that are built for legal to go in and do things like creating matters or do some missing time entries. So all of these additional workloads are available to the user right through useful actions. And then the last area I'm going to wrap up with is these useful links. And this gives us useful links, news, and Yammer all work essentially the same way, where we can go in and extend to other systems here. So, here we've simply linked out to the BBC News, but this could just as easily be another web-based application that your fee earners are dependent on, or the partners at the firm are dependent on. So you can go in, put these links out here. And again, it could be to a SharePoint site, it could be to other research tools that they're leveraging on a frequent basis, but just gives them an easy way to jump in and keep connected to the base dynamic system. So with that said, I'm going to go back to the dashboard and I'm going to stop sharing. And I'm going to transition back to Nick for questions.
Yeah, thanks, Vinnie. Thanks for the whistle-top tour. We appreciate it. Look, can people hear a bit of an echo on me? Okay, I think it's okay. So look, just before I open the floor to questions, just to give you some time to compose something, I've got one here that's been submitted for Mike. So Mike, if I could just land one with you, and then just in case others want to submit. By the way, if you do want to submit a question, don't forget to unmute your microphones when you're ready. Mike, just for you, look, what's the key learning, I suppose, you could share with the audience then from your experience over the last couple of years with the platform you've installed? Yeah, people will be desperate to hear, I'm sure.
Okay. Key learning. I guess one of the key messages I'd make is that you need to go into these projects with an open mind. I think historically whenever we've adopted these kind of processes, these changes, we defined at the outset what we want to achieve and make the vendors deliver against those objectives in a particular way. And I think that the power of the evergreen, of dynamics generally these days is so great that if you go in with an open mind and look at what is possible, and think about how you might use the application within your own business, and keep that open mind, you can make amazing progress. Some of the traditionalists will hate this approach, but actually it's proved to be immensely valuable. And I've just learned a huge amount through this process, and it just continues to amaze me what is possible if you give the opportunity to people to show you, how you can use this stack to the benefit for the firm. Did that help?
Yeah, no, perfect. Do we have any questions from the audience? Shout out if there's anything. If there's not, then I just got one final clarification. Actually, for Toby. Toby, I mean, a lot of talk around has been with finance, and AI in finance. I know there's some big advances in the platform around finance insights. Can you share a little bit on that with us?
Yeah, of course. Great question, Nick. So yeah, we've got some new functionality coming called Finance Insights, which is an AI-driven set of algorithms that can be leveraged inside our finance tool. And the two main ones that are coming out, the first one is something called the Customer Payments Insights. And what that will essentially do is it will analyze your previous historical data of when customers or clients have paid you and make accurate predictions on when if they're going to pay late, they're going to pay early, etc., and things like that. So it gives you a bit more of a better understanding on your cash flow. And then the other side is the cash flow forecasting, which is where we will accurately be able to forward predict your cash flow inside the firm to do more accurate planning from procurement and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff coming, Nick. And the other side of the coin there is, we mentioned the Power Platform a couple of times. It's that citizen developers or firms can just leverage things like the AI builder inside Power Platform to actually create different AI models without actually having to do any coding. You simply just train the model. So things like OCR technology for expense or invoice processing, or pattern detection, or things like form processing, all of that just takes you simply scan a document, train the algorithm, and no code, and then you can leverage that inside your firm. So there's lots of different options for people to take.
Perfect. Thank you, sir. There's one from the floor. Is it Alfred?
Hi, yeah, it's Michelle Alfred.
Was it Michelle? I don't know which
Morning.
one. Sorry.
So I'm a business improvement and change analyst at DAC Beechcroft. This has been a really, really interesting presentation. So thanks for this. There's a lot of information in there around the fee earner financials. I wonder if the data can be utilised in some way for capacity planning. Would that be a possibility?
I certainly see no reason why not. In fact, it's one of the things that we're looking to try and develop. One of the challenges, of course, is getting fee earners to record their time in the first place and promptly. We are certainly moving in that direction, and I see opportunities in terms of workflow planning, taking advantage both of the kind of activity levels as of now, but also looking at the skill sets within the fee earner population, so you can actually start matching skill sets against matter requirements, for example. It's something we haven't done very much on yet. I know that Toby was talking about those kind of capabilities, and certainly because the data is all joined up now, it becomes much easier to do that kind of thing. So it's on our agenda to do, for sure.
Brilliant, thank you.
Okay, any other questions from the floor? If not, then I'll just hand across to Jamie to sort of wrap it up for us. Jamie, over to you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Nick. Some great questions there, and thanks to the panel for covering those points off. Firstly, I'd like to thank you all for taking the time today for this session, and all the speakers for their insight. It's been hugely valuable. I hope you'll agree. I know many of you are joining us for the final session next week, which is focused on accelerating business processes. So how do you gain those immediate wins through automation? So we'll be looking at, as Vinnie mentioned, Power Platform and the capability to extend to meet your specific business needs. So we look forward to seeing you again then. If you haven't signed up, please do so. But if you do have any challenges in getting signed up, do let us know, and we'll make sure that we'll get you registered. As we weren't actually able to meet today for a full breakfast briefing session in person, we'd like to offer you a breakfast on us. So the team will send through some details to you shortly. And finally, I'd just like to reiterate our commitment with sa.global to supporting law firms on their digital transformation journeys. And a key part of this journey is helping you realise what great legal future state can look like. And therefore, we'd be delighted to offer any of the organisations that have joined today the option for Microsoft and sa.global to fund a business value engagement. Well, help you define what is current state versus future state, or indeed a proof of concept if there's any specific use cases where you would like to actively be able to see how Dynamics and the sa.global Evergreen solution can help you move forward. Do reach out. We would be delighted to fund those sessions with you. So once again, thank you for your time, and I'll close out the session wishing you all a good day. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.